Hey guys, it's me Andrew, your favorite Canadian YouTuber, eh? And today, I will be listing my top 10 games of 2022. Now keep in mind, these are my personal favorites that came out this year, and there are some hugely popular games that aren't included on this list, such as Elden Ring and God of War Ragnarok, because I have not played those games unfortunately. I just wanted to get that out of the way before I begin the countdown. Number 10. Klonoa Fantasy Reverie Series. Now, it was a very difficult choice between this game and KO the Kangaroo, but after thinking long and hard about it, I decided to go with Klonoa. KO came pretty close though. Anyway, I've heard good things about the Klonoa games, and after hearing that Klonoa was coming back with a remaster for modern consoles, my interest was piqued. So I played the demo, and it was just as fun as I expected. Eventually I bought the game on sale on PS5, and I don't regret it one bit. What else can I say about Klonoa other than it's fun, cute, colorful, and it just keeps making you smile the more you play it? I know that Klonoa has a dedicated cult following with high hopes that Klonoa continues to thrive in the future, and hoping to God that Bandai Namco doesn't just forget about him. And I hope so too. Number 9.
Dragon Adventure, baby! Come get it!
Tiny Tina's Wonderlands. While this game might not exactly be everyone's favorite game this year, it was certainly a favorite for my sister and I, and we had a ton of fun playing it together. It all started back when I got Tiny Tina's Assault on Dragon Keep for free via PS Plus, and it piqued my sister's interest. You see, when I introduced my sister to Borderlands, she wasn't really a fan of the whole Mad Max-ish desert wasteland theme, but on the other hand, she found Tiny Tina's whole Dungeons and Dragons theme much more appealing. Only makes sense since she loves D&D and whatnot. Anyway, she and I played through Tiny Tina's Assault on Dragon Keep, and it was one of the most fun co-op gaming experiences we've ever had together. After finishing Dragon Keep, she and I immediately wanted to try the new game Tiny Tina's Wonderlands. Eventually, we got it on sale, and it did not disappoint us. Or at least not too much. Wonderlands isn't perfect by any means, but it was just as much fun as Dragon Keep, if not more, and my sister and I still had a blast playing it. It may not be my favorite game this year, but I think it was quite possibly the most fun co-op experience I've had this year, and it definitely earns its spot on this list. Number 8. Freedom Planet 2. I and many others have been waiting for this game for so many years, and it was well worth the wait. I immediately bought the game on Steam the very minute it became available for purchase, and I didn't hesitate to play it. In my opinion, this game takes everything great about the first game and amps it up. Maybe not to 11, but definitely a leap above the first game for sure. Honestly, I've yet to find a single thing I don't like about this game. The controls are smooth, the fast-paced flow moves almost perfectly, the characters are just as lovable as ever, and overall, the game is just incredibly fun to play. While I haven't finished the game yet, what I've played so far is enough to land it a spot in my top 10. Number 7. Cultic. As some of you may know, I love old school FPS games, especially ones made on the build engine, and one of the greatest classic build engine FPS games of all time is Blood, where you're a badass massacring cultists and blowing stuff up. Unfortunately, there has never been another game that quite captures that same magic and feel. Until now. Cultic is a retro throwback FPS inspired by Blood and other classic games, and it captures everything special about old school FPS games from back in the day, and I'd say it even looks good by modern game standards. Honestly, between Cultic and Ion Fury, I'm having trouble deciding which throwback game is better. From a variety of awesome weapons, to the smooth, fast-paced run-and-gun action gameplay, to the absolutely gorgeous visual style, just about everything about this game hits the right mark, and is an absolute blast to play. Quite literally. Honestly, I was surprised this game was made in Unity, and it's quite impressive what the devs were able to do here with it. This is easily one of the best retro-style FPS games I've ever played, and I can't wait to play more of it when Chapter 2 comes out. Number 6. Kirby and the Forgotten Land. What can I say about this game that hasn't already been said? Kirby's very first fully 3D adventure certainly made quite an impact. It may have taken the little puffball 20 years to finally make the jump to 3D, but it was well worth the wait, and it certainly did not disappoint in the slightest. What can I say? It's incredibly fun, bright and colorful, has a very simple yet interesting story, especially through the visuals of the world itself, and all the characters are as cute and lovable as ever. Not to mention the curvy cat lady that probably spawned a whole new generation of furries. series. Anyway, many of Kirby's abilities and mechanics from the traditional 2D games are translated almost perfectly into 3D. The addition of Mouthful mode is certainly a welcome one, and boy did they get creative with the Mouthful abilities. I think most of us can agree that this might be one of the best, if not the best game in the Kirby franchise to date. Though I heard Planet Robobot was pretty good too. Number 5. Bayonetta 3. I've recently gotten into the Bayonetta series, and after playing through both the first 2 games, I became an instant fan, and I got wicked excited for the Witch's 3rd game. No pun intended. This game basically took everything great about the first 2 Bayonetta games and built upon it, and added in some new core gameplay elements to make it even more interesting. I'll admit, the new beast summoning mechanics did take some time for me to get used to, but nothing too frustrating. They definitely took an interesting direction with the story, to say the least. And it's always good to see the classic characters we all know and love, like John, Rodin, Luca, and Enzo, and the new characters like Viola are pretty interesting as well. Now, speaking of characters, it's kinda hard to talk about this game without bringing up the controversy that happened before the game's launch day, specifically involving the recast of Bayonetta's voice actress. I'm sure we all know what happened with Helena Taylor and the crap storm on Twitter she stirred up and whatnot, but I'm not going to go into detail on that. All I'm going to say is, while Bayonetta certainly sounds noticeably different in the 3rd game, I'd say her replacement voice actress Jennifer Hale did a pretty good job with her performance. I think the only thing about this game that really kinda disappointed me was the lack of amiibo support. Like how Bayonetta 2 had all those amiibo costumes and weapons, like Samus's armor and arm cannon, Link's tunic, Master Sword and Shield, Princess Peach and Daisy dresses summoning giant Bowser fists, Fox McCloud furry cosplay with matching R-Wing fighter jets, and of course the good old Chain Chomp. Those things made Bayonetta 2 a lot more fun to play, and I really wanted to see them return in Bayonetta 3, but alas, they're gone. But hey, maybe they'll add amiibo support in the future, who knows? Hopefully someday. Number 4. Bendy and the Dark Revival. As a longtime Bendy fan, I've been waiting for this game for so long, I wasn't sure if it was ever going to come out. So it was one hell of a pleasant surprise when this game just suddenly dropped out of nowhere, and it blew our expectations out of the ink puddles. A lot of you probably know this by now, but Bendy and the Dark Revival is one of the most incredible indie horror games in recent years, and it far surpasses its original predecessor in literally every way. Between this game and Happy's Humble Burger Farm, I had trouble deciding which horror game was better, and that's one hell of a statement. From its absolutely breathtaking visual style, to its atmosphere, to its complex yet fascinating lore surrounding the amazing world this game takes place in, honestly, I can't think of a single thing wrong with this game. While the core gameplay might be a little bit simplistic, similar to the previous game, but it's definitely a lot more dynamic and engaging, much less repetitive, and overall improved from the first game. Now, I think most of us can agree that the characters are easily the best part of the game. Every one of them is instantly memorable, it doesn't take long to love them, and each one plays a part that really helps make this world feel more alive and like you're a part of it as you experience everything this amazing game has to offer. Not to mention, I've always loved the old school cartoon aesthetic of the Bendy series, and it still holds up perfectly well in this game too. There's no denying that Bendy and the Dark Revival is hands down one of the greatest games of 2022. It's a shame it didn't get nominated at the Game Awards, but it's probably too good for that. Number 3. Shadow Warrior 3. As some of you may know, I'm a pretty big fan of the Shadow Warrior games, both the original 90s build engine classic and the modernized reboot trilogy. Shadow Warrior 3 was easily one of my most anticipated games of 2022, and I'd say it was well worth the wait when it finally came out. Now, while the game was in a bit of a rocky state at launch, as it had some slight performance issues, a lack of New Game Plus or level select options to replay previous levels, and of course there were quite a few bugs, though not nearly as many frustrating game-breaking bugs as Shadow Warrior 2 on PS4, from my personal experience at least. I mean, at least I could play the game without getting stuck to the ground repeatedly, unable to move, or the last objective enemy falling through the map, causing me to run around like a chicken with its head cut off for an hour straight until I give up and just reset the whole side mission and do it all over again! Sorry. Bit of a PTSD flashback there. Anyway, back on topic. Despite its flaws, Shadow Warrior 3 is still an incredibly fun experience, and it just might be my favorite game in the series, gameplay-wise at least. The controls, movement, and combat are very smooth and fast-paced, the challenge is nicely balanced for the most part, and overall it just feels greatly satisfying to play. The only thing I would add is the ability to heal yourself with chi like in the first two games. Honestly, I kinda wish they kept that in the third game, but I guess it's not a huge deal. I still get a nice variety of weapons to use, and the new gore weapons ripped straight off enemies were a lot more fun to use than I expected. However, my favorite weapon in the game would easily be the riot gun. In fact, when I saw the riot gun made a comeback at Shadow Warrior 3, I got wicked excited. Considering the riot gun is one of the greatest shotguns in video game history, it's basically a rapid-fire Gatling shotgun, seeing it return in the latest game almost made me crap myself. Honestly, I don't think I've gotten this excited for a weapon comeback since the Unmaker in Doom Eternal. I will say the new riot gun might not be as good as the original classic riot gun, similar to how Doom Eternal's Unmaker feels like a downgrade compared to the original Unmaker from Doom 64, but hey, it's still hella fun to use. Anyway, another thing that got me excited for this game was the return of Hoji. Boy, have I missed him. Not hating on Kamiko or anything, but she's no Hoji. While I think most of us can probably agree that this game's weakest element would be its story. I mean, I don't think the story is terrible, I just thought they could have done more with it, especially compared to the previous game's ambitious approach it took. But while this game's story might be lacking in some areas, on the bright side, the characters like Lo Wang and Hoji still share their chemistry they had in the first game, both the funny and emotional moments, which was enough to keep me invested throughout the game. Not to mention, Madako is pretty cool too, and I really wanted to see more of her. There definitely wasn't enough of her in the game. Now on another note, just like Bayonetta 3, there was a spark of controversy involving the voice actor recasting before launch day, and it's kinda hard to talk about this game without bringing that up. Now, while I do prefer Lo Wang's original voice actor, Jason Liebrecht, and it is rather sad to see him gone, especially given the reasons as to why the Hogs dropped him, but at the same time, I can't say I dislike Lo Wang's new voice actor, Mike Moh. I mean, he is the guy who played Bruce Lee in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and he sounds almost exactly like Lo Wang in the movie, so hey, at least they picked a decent replacement casting choice for Lo Wang, in a similar fashion to Jennifer Hale in Bayonetta 3. That's just my opinion though. But despite all the controversy surrounding this game, I don't think it really changes the fact that this game is still one hell of a fun experience. I had a blast playing all the way through, quite literally, and it's some of the most fun I've had with any video game all year. I'd say it definitely deserves a number 3 spot on this list. In fact, it almost got the number 2 spot, but I think we may already know which game tops it. Number 2. Happy's Humble Burger Farm. Now, this might be kinda cheating since this game was technically a 2021 release, but there are a few factors as to why I think it could be an exception, such as the fact that this game came out near the very end of 2021 in December, after the Game Awards have already happened and the vast majority of top 10 games of 2020 lists, videos, and articles have already been done, before this game could even get a chance to be added to any of them. Also, I'm willing to make the argument that if Among Us, a game that came out in 2018, is widely considered a 2020 game and was nominated for 2020 awards despite releasing 2 years prior, then I don't see why Happy's Humble Burger Farm can't get the same pass since it only came out less than a month before the beginning of 2022. Oh, and not to mention, it got a Nintendo Switch port that officially released in 2022. So, given circumstances, I think the game deserves a pardon and spot on this list. Okay, now that I've gotten that off my chest, let's talk about the game. If you've been following my channel throughout the past year, you should already know that I absolutely love Happy's Humble Burger Farm. This game isn't getting nearly the amount of love, support, or recognition that it deserves, which is a shame because, honestly, it is without a doubt one of the best indie horror games in recent years. It's much better than Poppy Playtime, way better than Hello Neighbor, and definitely better than FNAF Security Breach without question. So it's a real shame that Happy's got heavily overshadowed by Security Breach back when both games came out in December last year. Anyway, I can't recommend this game enough to fans of horror gaming or in general. It It is a near-perfect hybrid of a horror game and a fast food restaurant simulator, and I don't think I've ever seen any other game that combines these two genres in such a seamless and well-balanced way. The gameplay is very fun, addictive, and engaging. The game has a decent level of challenge and always adds something new as you progress so it never gets boring. The retro PS1 style really adds to the game's tone and enhances the overall experience. The world within the game is quite fascinating and fun to explore. The mysterious, creepy, uneasy atmosphere is just solid. The characters are instantly memorable. Toe obviously is the best character, and the extensive in-game lore is by far the most intriguing part of the whole experience, as it's full of mysteries and unanswered questions, always keeping you invested and wanting to learn more. You can tell the Scythe devs put a lot of passion and effort into this game, and even after playing through it so many times, I still don't think I've discovered all of the game's secrets. That's the thing about this game. Even after you finish it, the fun never stops. Quite literally, since there's an endless mode you unlock after beating the game. Like I've said before, I can't recommend this game enough to everyone, and if you haven't already, do yourself a favor and buy it. More people need to know about this game, more people need to play it, especially people who have worked at a fast food restaurant in real life. This game is a prime example of a hidden horror gem, and I'd even go as far as to call it an underrated masterpiece. You know what the funny thing is? I don't even like burgers. I hope that doesn't hurt my relationship with the Happy's Humble devs or community in any way, does it? Now before we get to my number one pick, here are a few honorable mentions. KO the Kangaroo, Kirby's Dream Buffet, Pac-Man World Repack, Sonic Frontiers, Stray, Choo Choo Charles, and the House of the Dead Remake. These games might not have made the top 10, but I still enjoyed all of them, and I think they're at least worth mentioning. Once again, KO almost made the number 10 spot, and it was a rather difficult pick. Anyway, on to my number one game of the year. Number 1! Splatoon 3. Hold on a sec. First we got Bayonetta 3, Shadow Warrior 3, and now Splatoon 3? Huh, I guess you could say 2022 had the best number 3s.
It is a good thing I do not have to go the number 3. It would not be safe for you.
Ugh.
Anyway, I'm gonna try and keep this short and not go into excessive detail like the others. Some of you may know, I'm a big fan of Splatoon, and this was without a doubt my most anticipated game of 2022, and as expected, this game basically took everything great about the first two games and built upon it. The gameplay is just as fun as the previous games, if not even more so, and there's plenty of welcome new additions here and there. The new story mode campaign is interesting to say the least, without going into any spoilers. The new characters of D-Cut are instantly lovable and admirable, much like the previous idols, and their three-way debates definitely make Splatfest events more interesting for sure. Overall, this game was pretty much everything I hoped it would be and more, and without a doubt, the best game in the Splatoon series. I don't know how long the game will last for before the final Splatfest happens, but I'd gladly be a part of this journey every step of the way. Not to mention, I'm also excited for the big DLC expansion coming sometime in the future. Can't wait to see what that holds. So those were my personal top 10 favorite games of 2022. On an additional note, I really wish I got a chance to play River City Girls 2, but sadly I have not. But if I did, then it probably would have made the list, or at least an honorable mention. Oh well. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and let's see what glory gaming awaits us in 2023.